Or yeah, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's webinar. We will give the audience 1 minute to join, so we will be back very soon. All right, I can see more people joining us right now, so I think we can get started. Hi, my name is David, and I'm a product enablement specialist in AskCody, and today I will be your webinar host. Now, today I have my colleague Cecilia with me, which will be the main speaker of today's webinar. Cecilia, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Yes, of course. Hi, my name is Cecilia, and I'm a solution enablement specialist here at AskCody. And today I want to give you some tips and best practice example on how to successfully adopt the add-ins in your organization. But I want to start by introducing why it is important to talk about the adoption of the add-ins and software in general. Well, you have spent a lot of time searching for the right software match where you can solve specific pains in your organization. But the software is never taken into use by your employees, then it will never generate the value for your organization that you wished for when you start implementing it. You will never reach your return of investment. And that is why it's super important that we do this right. When we talk about user or employee adoption, it is always important to accept that it doesn't happen overnight, or maybe not even the first time around. And that is okay. Software adoption is a tricky one to nail because if you are after all transforming the way that your employees work, and most of us are creatures of habits and don't like such changes unless it's done the right way. And actually, it shows that resistance to change is one of the biggest barriers to a successful software adoption. But don't worry, there are several different ways that you can prevent resistance. There are steps that you can take when planning your adoption program, so you help your employees feel more comfortable when trying the new processes of, in this case, booking with the AskCody add-ins. But first, let's dig into the agenda laid out for this webinar. I'll start by giving you a little theoretical input about the different adoption types and how you can identify them in your organization. Then I'll move on to provide you with 5 tips to have in mind when planning for a successful adoption. And at the end, be a little bit more practical and then take a look at what content we have to support the adoption of the add-ins. So let's start. Understand your employee's adoption type. When searching for the best way to adopt a new software in your organization, there are factors that can have a big impact on your success. The employee's willingness to learn and embrace the new software. As mentioned before, resistance to change plays a big factor in the success of adoption. And one way to break down for us is to understand a little bit better is by looking at the different adoption types. This model was originally specified by Beal and Boland in 1957 and later became very popular. Greg Gregory Moore, in his book Crossing the Chasm, further developed it into what we refer to today. This is just to explain the path of software adoption based on different adoption types. In the model, you see the innovators. The innovators are your technology enthusiasts. They are the ones who are always looking for the new technology and how it can benefit them. And they're very eager to dive into understanding how the technology works and how it can improve things in your organization. Then we have the early adopters. Early adopters are the employees who want to try this new software. They like the innovators, are going to be a driving force in influencing others in your organization to adopt this new software and whatever you're trying to implement. The early majority, this group often takes a little bit more practical approach to the new software. They're waiting for others to vet it first before jumping in and using it. The early majority is going to need a little bit of encouragement when using this new software. They're more concerned with what's in it for me and want to know how this new software is going to improve their lives. The late majority users are going to need a big push to adopt the new software. Typically, they will only adopt this when it becomes a major part of your business operations, and they can't complete their day-to-day tasks without it. Because if they can, they will. The last, we have laggards. These users will openly bark if you want to change their habits. They're often set in their way, and they're uncomfortable using new tools. They will use the old software as long as possible. They prefer old but familiar technology. You'll most likely need to force them to switch over to the new software by eliminating the old technology altogether, if that, of course, is an option. The reason why it's important to understand these different adoption types is because they play a significant role when creating an adoption program that works. Okay, so if you, based on this presentation of the adoption type, now is thinking, uh-oh, because you know that your organization most consists of maybe the late majority and laggards, don't worry. You might just need a few extra steps in your adoption program. And there will be no better way than trying to involve the innovators and early adoption, that you have, if you have any, when you are implementing AskCody. Because once they are hooked, they will provide the most motivation for the rest of your organization to switch. They will advocate for their fellow workers about how great the new platform is and how easy it will make their lives. The innovators and the early adopters will be your internal champions. So, time to move on to the tips. 5 tips to adopt the AskCody add-ins in your organization. The first tip I will introduce to you is start early. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make when you want to adopt the add-ins in your organization is to inform, involve, and train too late. This is also the reason why we advise new customers in the platform that the first thing that they have to do is set the right team. Not only for the purpose of the technical setup of the platform, but to be sure to identify and involve the key users early. Those key users are a valuable asset at this time in the implementation because they will bring insight to the current process of booking and their daily pains so that you know how to configure the platform to make them work smarter, easier, and to be more efficient. When looking at the value of involving key end users early from an adoption point of view, we learned that resistance to change is one of our biggest barriers for successful software adoption. And by making the users feel like they have an influence on the process of creating and setting up the platform, it will help break down that resistance. So remember, plan and involve end users already at the beginning of your implementation of the platform. But who are these key end users? Moving on to tip number 2. Identify your key end users. If we circle back to the software adoption model, you should always try to win over your innovators and early adopters before moving on to the early majority and so on. Simply because the innovators and early adopters are the one who will get the most excited about your new software being implemented in your organization. Once you have set them up as your internal AskCody champions, they will be more than happy not only to adopt it in their own daily tasks, but their enthusiasm for the platform can be used to encourage even the most resistant employees to give it a try. Okay, so now we know we need to start involving the key end users early. And we know that the key end users should be innovators and early adopters. So in practice, how do we identify them? When we talk about adoption of the whole AskCody platform, it will of course involve a lot of different departments because AskCody is a platform with many, many touch points in your organization, from the secretary to receptionist to service staff, facility managers, IT department, finance, etc. But my advice would be to split your employees in either the specific user groups I just mentioned or by department or office. Take a look what makes sense in your organization. From each of the groups, you will then identify who is your innovators and the early adopters. If this is tricky for you, then try to ask themselves or their managers. They're maybe more likely to pin out the right ones for you to contact. It is important to have the innovators and the early adopters represented from each group because your finest job is to make them the internal AskCody champions. And then they will help you crack the code to get those late majority and jack laggards on board. Because then they will have someone close to them talking good about the new platform. But most important thing of all of the tips that I'm going to talk about today is the next one, which is communication. I can't stress enough how important it is for the right communication when creating a successful adoption. Nobody, not even the innovators or early adopters, appreciates changes when it's sprung on them. Communication, therefore, is the most important step for securing a good adoption of the add-ins. Referring to tip number 1, start early, not only by involving your key end users, but also with the communication. Sending out a few sporadic emails a few days before the add-in go live will not be enough. It requires a solid plan that starts a few months before with announcement emails, introduction meetings, training, test, follow-up sessions, etc. But one thing to remember is that the best communication goes both ways. Your employees' routines are changing. New habits need to be formed. And if they're responsible for part of the implementation, they're going to need to work out the kinks as they go along. It can be hard to understand just how much stress this new change can cause to your employees. So remember to hear them out. Give them a chance to give you their feedback and tell you what concerns that they have regarding to taking the add-ins into use before you go live. This gives you the opportunity to catch them and turn their concerns around instead of them ending up not being adopted in the add-ins. This makes them feel heard and listened to, even if you don't have the right answer to the question. Also, be sure to carefully consider the language that you're using when introducing this new platform and add-ins to your organization. Using language like game changer or the new way of doing things, for instance, could put people on their guards and get a little bit defensive. I will encourage you to use language like that helps them recognize the benefit of the add-ins, like the add-ins will simplify your processes. It will make your job easier, for example. Let's stay a little bit longer in the communication area before moving on, or by moving on to the next step here, because let them know why. We already know that the most of your employees might be resistant to the change, and it is therefore important to give them a good reason why. If you put in the effort and time to really explain the benefits and why the organization has chosen to go with the AskCody platform and not something else, and how it can make their daily task easier, faster, save them time, you can build up excitement around the add-ins and the following adoption program. It is not only important to give them the benefit around their own position and area, but give them the full picture of why AskCody is the right choice for your company, because the platform solves pains and make processes better across the whole organization, not just for them. So by having a big focus on what's in it for me can really help them embrace the platform and be more open to these changes. The last tip, product training. Product training is a key part on your way to creating a successful adoption program. Having training sessions are a great tool to set your employees up for success when they start their new journey with the add-ins. There are a few things that you can do to create an effective product training, and here are some tips. Keep the training sessions relevant. You can do that by understanding the processes of your different user groups. What are they going through and how are they currently working? This will help you make your different training sessions relevant for them. Your product training should be customized to every user group with a big focus on why it is important for them. You can also, or you should also create engaging training. When creating an engaging training session, it is important that it's not just consist of show and tell. Be sure to plan some sessions where you get the time to try out the add-ins for themselves in their own environment. And there is time and place for them to ask questions. Another way you can engage the employees in your training session is also by creating mini games or quizzes or maybe reward programs. The last tip, make the training accessible. Employees today want the freedom to learn wherever and whenever they want. Think about how you can make the training session more accessible, for example, by hosting the training sessions online. You could record these sessions for the users to see when they want. You can have Q&A sessions live. And you can place all the training material and all the materials that you have online. This might help you get a little bit more of the people on board for those that might not be able to make it for the physical sessions. So now we had a lot of tips and best practice on how you can create a successful add-in adoption. But let's be a little bit more practical and take a look at what content that we have to support these tips. Content to support the adoption of the add-ins. Everything that I have been saying here today are already available at the end user adoption section in the implementation guide on the Help Center. Plus, you also, of course, have the opportunity to view this webinar afterwards on demand here in the link. Further on, we already have some how to use videos on our YouTube page. A little disclaimer, they are soon to be updated with the new AskCody CVI, and they're going to get like the new add-ins icons so that you can use them so it will match exactly what your users are seeing in Outlook in the add-ins. Further, we are working on creating best practice communication program for those of you who want some inspiration in that area. We are also working on creating how-to guide templates that you can customize so it fit exactly your needs and so that you can make it look exactly how the add-ins of your employees, what they're looking at in the Outlook. And also what to say and how to frame AskCody. At last, we'll create some train the trainer content so that you can get some inspiration for your different training sessions as a trainer of your own employees. And most of it will be available when it's done in the Help Center. So, well, that was it for me, but I hope that you enjoyed it. And please, if you have any feedback or possible wishes for the adoption content or suggestions to what would have helped you when you implemented the AskCody platform in your organization, please contact me. I would be very, very happy to hear from you. hope that you learned something today, and all I have to say is thank you for listening and have a happy add-in adoption. On to you, David.
Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you for this great presentation. I hope that you guys find it very useful, and that all of the tips that Cecilia made available here will help you in not only in implementing the add-ins if you are a new customer, but also in increasing the adoption when you are indeed a new customer. Now, moving on to the questions, I can see here a couple of questions from the audience. Maybe we can take them from top to bottom. And the first one is, what if we know that we do not have any innovators and early adopters in our organization? So you mentioned the importance of them, Cecilia, in your presentation. So the customer here is asking, what if I cannot identify any users of that type in my organization?
A very, very good question. Well, yeah, they were very, very important in this presentation. But of course, if you are not those type of people that are very tech enthusiasts and do not like embrace technology and the new software in your organization at the first glance, of course, you just move on to the next section that you actually can't identify. But be aware, read a little bit more about these types of or this adoption type, because then they might need a little bit more push, as I mentioned before, and they might need some more training or some more benefit put their way of why. Really focus on the why for these people. You have chosen this platform AskCody and why they're going to use the add-ins, and then start by them, because the important part here is that you try to really embrace that, involving them in the beginning of the process, or just like really use the time on them and hear them out if they have any questions, and just start from there, because then that's your focus point and not the innovators and the early adopters. They're of course the easiest one to have, because they will embrace whatever you say at the beginning. The ones that you have in your organization might not be as open to the change, but focus on them anyway. They will help you, definitely help you to get those late adopters and the laggards on board as well.
Great. Thank you for that, Cecilia. I see we have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to take a couple more questions here from the audience. I can see here a couple of questions regarding availability. And it's, first of all, when will the updated videos be available? And second of all, when will the content in the Help Center be available?
Good questions. As it is right now, we are currently working on the videos. These are very, very high priority for us to get done. So I would say within a couple of weeks, they are available. If you want to know exactly when they are available for you, send us or me an email, and I will let you know right away when they're available on YouTube or in the Help Center. According to the other things, that is something that is not, some of it is started, but I would say within months, the next month, I would say I'll be working full time on creating this content from we stop at this webinar today. So it will come within the next month. I can promise you that.
Great, Cecilia. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great that the content will be soon available for everybody. And the very last question is, how do we get the current help content? How do we find whatever is available now in the Help Center for us as an organization?
Yes, I showed you a picture, but what you can do is you can go to our Help Center. It is help.askcody.com, and you will get the help set, but then you click on the implementation, implement AskCody, I think the category is called, and then you have the whole implementation guide. Then you move on to the section called end user training and adoption. Here, everything that I have said today, the demonstrations and everything, will be available in that section. It has like 3 different articles. It is how to prepare. This is where we talk a little bit about these user different adoption types. And then it has the tips, and it has the content available. And in the article about the content available, this is where of course, the new content will be updated and available in there when it's done.
All right, thank you very much, Cecilia. I also wrote the URL for our help center right here in the chat section, so you can see it there. Otherwise, you can always Google AskCody Help Center, and you should find the first result there. Yes. Now, moving on to next section, we're about to be done. I would like to invite you to reach out to us at product@askcody.com in case there are some topics or any ideas that you have that you would like us to address in these webinars. We are currently and always working to keep the content as relevant as possible for our customers. So it's really great to get your feedback whenever that is available for us. In that way, we can also stay in line with what we believe is valuable for our customers, but we also make sure to comply with whatever you require in your organization and keep hopefully creating value for you in that way. Now, I would also like to invite you to join us on our next webinar. Is on Tuesday, November 16th at the same time as this one. So that is 3 p.m. Central European time, where we will talk about how to get the best from room displays. So we really hope to see you all there. And now, last but not least, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today, and see you in the next one. Have a great day wherever you are.